What's good? It's your boy Fanon. All right, I'm going to talk about little Terence Crawford, Errol Spence Jr. There was an interview that came out on Boxing Scene in which Brian McIntyre, the trainer for Terence Crawford, called out top-rank CEO Todd duBoef about making a fight with Errol Spence Jr. And Errol Spence and Todd duBoef said maybe. And I'm going just off what the interview that I heard, what I've read. And the reason I'm saying this, man, is because there's a lot of conversation about whether or not Terence Crawford is going to fight Errol Spence Jr. And this, to me, man, just doesn't make a lot of sense to me. So let me go through what he said. But before I do, please subscribe and hit the bell icon. If you're not subscribed, please do so. Accept my invitation to subscribe so you can be notified when we release more videos and when we do the live streams. And thank you to everybody that supports the channel. It is much, much appreciated by listening to the ads we have on the commercials. I know sometimes, that can bother some people, but, that's how we raise money for the channel. So I hope that you understand. If not, it ain't going to change, but that's just how the world works. Also, thank you to everybody that donates through Super Chat, Venmo, and Patreon. It's much, much appreciated. We'll be having some new content coming up on Patreon. We're going to reorganize that thing pretty soon, and I'll let you know when we do that. But let me go through what Brian McIntyre says, and let's give you my two thoughts on it, man. And this is just not. Before I get in there, there's something about somebody calling somebody out, right? Like the way that I would know that Terence Crawford really wants this fight is if Terence Crawford says that he wants to fight. Not if his mother says he wants to fight, or his sister says that he wants to fight, or his promoter says that he wants to fight, or his trainer says that he wants to fight. The only way that I'm going to know that Terence Crawford wants to fight Errol Spence Jr. is if Terence Crawford says something about wanting to fight Errol Spence Jr. I think that is the only way you can know. And you might not know then. But short of that happening, you have no idea whether this guy wants to fight or not. And I'm not going to suppose because somebody around him says that Bud wants to fight, that Bud actually wants to fight. Because the way that you go about doing that is the same way that Mikey Garcia went about calling out Errol Spence Jr. He said it in the media that he wants to fight. He said it. Now, whether he was being honest or not, I can't say, but I know for sure Mikey Garcia said it because I heard it come out of Mikey Garcia's mouth. I know that Deontay Wilder wanted to fight Anthony Joshua because I heard it come out of Deontay Wilder's mouth. And the reason that I don't know for sure that Anthony Joshua wants to fight is because Anthony Joshua was muddle-mouthed about it and half-hearted about it and never firmly committed to it by, let's take a poll. Who the fans want to see me fight? No, man, that's not my question. Do you want to fight? And he had to be asked the question about whether or not he wants to fight. I don't believe Eddie Hearn telling me that Anthony Joshua wants to fight. I don't believe in Anthony Joshua's mother telling me that he wants to fight, or Rod McCracken telling me that his trainer saying that Anthony Joshua wants to fight. I'm not going to believe it until I hear Anthony Joshua say it affirmatively that he wants to fight, like I heard Deontay Wilder. Same thing holds true for Terence Crawford. This conversation right here just tells me that Brian McIntyre thinks he's going to have difficulty making the fight because he's talking to Todd duBoef. This is what he says. We want the champion. We want after the champions, man. There's no reason to be fighting a number 6 dude or a number 7 dude or a number 14 dude, because I do believe that's what Jose Benavidez is. Terence wants the best fighters out there at 147. So I'm glad Todd duBoef is on the call because we'll put the heat on him. He's the one who makes the fight happen. He could go to ESPN and make those fights happen. Terence wants the fight to happen. Let's go. The only fights out there is the other champions. Right now, the biggest name at the welterweight division for Terence is Errol Spence. So what we'll do is, I'm glad Todd is on the calls. I'm glad Todd on this call is going to put pressure on them. ESPN is the leader in sports. We want to be the leader in boxing. They're going to go out and make these fights happen. So that's what Terence wants. They want Terence to be the number one fighter in the world. So they must do their job. We do our job. Todd does his job. And the whole thing is going to be done. Right? This is him not calling out Terence Crawford, Errol Spence Jr. This is not Terence Crawford talking to Errol Spence Jr. This is Todd duBoef. This is Brian McIntyre talking to Todd duBoef, talking to Top Rank and saying, Top Rank, please talk to ESPN. This is the exact multi-level type of thing that Errol Spence Jr. and other people, and I've talked about when you have all these promoters involved. Look at all the people that have to talk to each other. Assuming that Terence Crawford talked to Bomac, right? I got no reason not to take him at his word, but that still ain't the same thing as calling somebody out. Terence Crawford says to Bomac. Bomac then says to Todd duBoef. Todd duBoef then goes to ESPN. Oh, no, Todd duBoef then goes to Bob Arum. Bob Arum then goes to ESPN. Then ESPN delivers a message back to Bob Arum. Bob Arum and Todd duBoef deliver that message back to Brian McIntyre. Brian McIntyre delivers that message back to Errol Spence Jr. That is a lot. And then what if it goes all the way up to top ESPN? Then ESPN calls this guy named Les Moons, or he talks to talks to Les Moons, and then Les Moons talks to Steven Espinoza, and Steven Espinoza then talks back to ESPN. Then ESPN then arranges a meeting between Bob Arum, Todd duBoef, and I mean it's a lot of moving parts in there, man. That is not a call out, man. It's just not. Now, what Todd duBoef, Todd duBoef is super non-committal about it. He says, I think we're asking everyone to look into a crystal ball, right? Look into a crystal ball and project out what everybody else's needs are and what everybody else wants to do. We've established what we want to do, all right? We're not going to come up to a press conference. I mean, this call is about Terence Crawford. I'm not going to divert like they did. They're giving us all the attention. We're going to go after all these guys. We're not allowing anything, no politics to get in the way. We don't want to do that. Let's get it done. We'll figure this out. I'm not going to make a judgment call today on the phone without having a conversation with everybody. We're open to anything to make those big fights happen for Terence and Bomac, right? That's what we're open to. We're not going to be siloed into a formulaic. That means he didn't say anything. Okay? He said, we're looking into some crystal ball. We don't know what's going to happen in the future. That's what a crystal ball is. We don't know what's going to happen in the future. This is non-committal a conversation as you can possibly have in boxing. Where you compare that to Errol Spence Jr. saying that he wants to fight Sean Porter. It was simple. Errol Spence Jr. got into the ring and told Sean Porter, I want to fight you. Do you want to fight me? Simple. As far as knowing who wants the fight to happen, I know who wants to make the fight happen. I know Errol Spence Jr. wants to make the fight happen. In this scenario, the only person that I can make a solid case wants to fight in all of these people talking is Bomac. Because I didn't hear out of Terence Crawford's mouth. Todd duBoef was non-committal, and they're doing it in a press conference for David Benavidez. So unless they skipped over some conversation where Terence Crawford said it, and I have a hard time believing that Terence Crawford, if he had said something in this press conference about it, that Terence Crawford's voice wouldn't be in there, that they wouldn't say what Terence Crawford said. But, it is what it is, man. But Look, man, people get when Terence Crawford signed this contract with ESPN, with Top Rank, because he signed it with Top Rank. If he is paying attention to what happens in boxing, you have to know that this is a big roadblock to that fight, to a fight between Errol Spence Jr. and Terence Crawford happening. Now, I commend Brian McIntyre for saying what he said, that, hey man, we don't want to keep fighting the number 6, number 7 guy. We want to be the best, so we need this fight with Errol Spence Jr. to happen. But he doesn't have the power to make that fight happen. He does not have the power to make that fight happen. ESPN pays for the fight, and they pay Top Rank for that fight. Top Rank is the one that makes the card. He can put pressure on it, but eventually, we'll see what happens, man. But it is what it is. Look, this article doesn't make me any more encouraged about the prospect of Errol Spence Jr. fighting Terence Crawford. And I think that anytime soon, eventually, yeah, man, I'll go with the adage that everybody uses, which is eventually, fighters say that they want to fight, then, the fight will get made. But in this situation, the manager is saying he wants to fight. I've not heard Terence Crawford tell anybody out of his mouth that he wants that fight. I hear Terence Crawford say that he'll fight anybody. I fight who my management put in front of me. And if he's going to be non-committal about it, and Brian McIntyre is pressing, why would Top Rank, even if Top Rank really cared about Terence Crawford, which I do not believe they do, why would they go out of their way to potentially get Terence Crawford beat? Because Terence Crawford I know there's a lot of people, I'm a fan of Terence Crawford as well. Big fan of Terence Crawford, but there ain't no guarantee that he's going to get in there with Errol Spence Jr. and not get beat up. That is not an easy fight for Terence Crawford, despite what at least the matchmaker, and Todd duBoef, I do believe, was a matchmaker, right? He ain't in no hurry to make that fight, man. That's a dangerous fight for Terence Crawford. It's a dangerous fight for anybody at 147 pounds. But anyway, it is what it is. And with that, I'm out, man. If you're not subscribed, please subscribe and hit the bell icon so you can tell me, especially Terence Crawford fans, who can tell me what an idiot I am for my viewpoint on this, man. But it's all good. We'll agree on something else. And with that, I'm out. Peace.